Do you think that all messengers of God are pure and godly? Well, if you do, you are in for a big shock because we are going to be talking about one of the biggest instances of child abuse done by the Sisters of Mercy, a congregation founded way back in 1831 to help poor girls and women. But by 1996, the congregation had morphed into something sinister when the real story of the nuns associated with this congregation began to emerge in all its horrifying details. Watch this video till the end to know everything about the horrifying Sisters of Mercy child abuse scandal and how it was unmasked. The Sisters of Mercy was an international community of Roman Catholic religious women who vowed to serve the poor, sick, and uneducated when the congregation started in 1851 in Ireland. The Congregation of the Sisters of Mercy, as it was formerly known as, was started by Catherine Macaulay. This pious lady built a large house on Baggot Street, Dublin, and started a shelter for homeless girls and women and a school for poor girls. Macaulay was assisted in her good works by local women. But in times to come, women joining the Sisters of Mercy started taking vows of chastity, service, and obedience to the Catholic Church. They were also called the walking nuns as they would walk around the community, helping those in need. Much changed over the years, and a congregation that had been started by Macaulay to help poor girls ended up feeding on them. It was two iconic pieces of journalism that made people aware of the horrifying sexual crimes that were perpetuated in the institutes owned by the Sisters of Mercy. All hell was let loose subsequently when people realized what kind of inhuman, even demoniac treatment was meted out to children as young as 5 by the Sisters of Mercy, the messengers of God. Dear Daughter, a documentary looking at abuse allegations at St. Vincent's Industrial School, run by the Sisters of Mercy in Ireland, was screened on RTE television in the year 1996. This documentary by Louis Lenton tells the story of a woman named Christine Buckley and her experiences in the St. Vincent's Industrial School from 1950 to 1964. She focused her allegations against Sister Xavieria. Louis alleged that she was beaten so badly by the sister sadist of the Shining Stick that she had to get about 100 stitches. But that was not all. She had a kettle of boiling water poured over her right thigh when she complained of tiredness after climbing stairs when she was no more than a 10-year-old. This was one of the first instances of abuse that was exposed amongst tens of thousands that remain hidden to date in institutions owned by the congregation. After this, there was an avalanche of women testifying against the nuns of this congregation publicly. Such allegations set off a wave of atrocity stories against the sadist Sisters of Mercy, and they started being called the Sisters of No Mercy. Most of these allegations centered around the sadistic physical and emotional abuse of poor children living in their institutions. There were also allegations in the media that the nuns of the Sisters of Mercy congregation had caused the death of an infant who had been left in their care. The nuns categorically denied all the allegations. While the allegations in the documentary Dear Daughter were shocking, more was to be revealed. Fueled by the accounts of Louis, a large number of victims spoke of their abuse at the hands of the demonic nuns in the documentary series entitled States of Fear, screened in 1999. This documentary series took an immersive look at the allegations of abuse in the entire Irish industrial school system. It prompted a strong response from viewers, and this forced the Irish government to act. They finally decided to form a commission to inquire into child abuse allegations attributed to the Sisters of Mercy, was constituted by the Irish government in 1999, chaired by a High Court judge. This commission went on to examine alleged physical abuse allegations against a large number of Roman Catholic organizations in the country, and this list featured the Sisters of Mercy prominently. The government wanted to hear from the victims of child abuse during their childhood in institutions run by the Sisters of Mercy and other religious communities in the period from 1946 to 1999. This was later extended to cover the period extending from 1914 to 2000. According to the accounts of victims, the nuns of Sisters of Mercy not only beat them mercilessly, but also abused them emotionally. And some girls were also sexually assaulted, read raped, by people staying in these institutions with them. A case that gained a lot of traction in this regard featured a former nun of the Sisters of Mercy called Nora Wall, or Sister Dominic. Ms. Hall was accused of rape by a girl who had formerly been her ward in a group home in Cappoquin. The victim had alleged that both Nora and a homeless man with a serious mental disease, named Paul Pablo McCabe, who lived in the same home where she lived, had raped her twice. Nora Wall was convicted of the crime and later exonerated on the discovery of fresh evidence. These were, however, not the only serious charges against the Sisters of Mercy. An earlier inquiry had found that hundreds of children had been sexually abused, beaten, and forced into hard labor at the Nearcole orphanage. In the 2015 public hearing, a large number of victims came forward to share their years of vicious and sadistic neglect and abuse at the hands of priests and nuns at this orphanage. Some of these cases were so horrifying that it is difficult to imagine the savagery of so-called men and women of God. One victim of the Sisters of Mercy said that she was flogged by a nun while two priests were sexually abusing her. The report of this commission was released on 20th May 2009 and came to be known as the Ryan Report. In its findings, the Ryan Report acknowledged that the institutions and schools run by the Sisters of Mercy used too much corporal punishment and neglected the wards who were mostly from depressed backgrounds. It also said that, as per reports, children in homes run by the Sisters of Mercy were routinely malnourished and were kept hungry. Most importantly, the Ryan Commission also noted that it had found some very serious incidents of sexual abuse perpetrated by lay staff in some schools. But no serious punitive action was ever given to anyone. In 1998, an Australian documentary was aired on television channels. It documented the allegations of abuse at the Sisters of Mercy orphanages in the 1950s and 1960s in Australia. Two people were also charged with abuse at the Meteor Park orphanage under the same congregation. But what happened later was that the Sisters of Mercy and the powerful church came together to launch a powerful cover-up operation. They also agreed to a settlement with 60 former residents. Experts allege that the scandals related to the sexual misdemeanors of the Sisters of Mercy were grounded by the powerful Catholic Church, calling it one of the biggest miscarriages of justice ever. But this was not all. A few public hearings on allegations against the Sisters of Mercy were also conducted by the Australian government. They acknowledged that the schools run by this congregation were harsh and insensitive to the needs of children, that it was inadequate and did not meet their basic needs. But there was hardly any punitive action taken. On the other hand, they also almost justified the poor treatment of the children and their systematic abuse, saying it was because of the large size of the institutions, large number of poor kids, insufficient people, insufficient training for staff, and insufficient funding. On the whole, there was a categorical denial of any systematic physical abuse of kids in these Sisters of Mercy institutions at any time by most committees. A few of the monsters charged with these inhuman crimes did get punished, but it was a case of too few punished too lightly. And what was the response of the Sisters of Mercy to the Ryan Commission findings and the findings of other commissions into its physical and sexual abuse scandals? Not much. They published a response in which they formally apologized unconditionally for any abuse suffered by poor children in their care in May 2004 and in December 2009. The congregation announced that a sum of an additional €128 million would be added to an already constituted fund to compensate victims. Earlier, the Sisters of Mercy had agreed to give €127.5 million to the Irish government. And that was all. Lakhs of hapless children could have been abused for years by these God-fearing women and men belonging to the Congregation of Sisters of Mercy. But no one cared. In the end, powerful people proved once again that justice for the poor and helpless is a pipe dream. These men and women used their power not to protect innocent children who could not defend themselves, but to make sure that sexual crime, including rape and assault, would continue on the innocent bodies and minds of more children, scarring them for life. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel so that we can bring you more groundbreaking stories like this.